Hi everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today I've got a full tank review for you on the currently most prestigious vehicle that you can get in the game. It is the BlackRock. This is the Tier 11 American reward heavy tank that you have to grind through a series of very tricky missions to be able to get, at least if you want to have it quickly. As long as you unlock the Dravits and then you do your daily and your weekly missions, if you do them all for, I think it's about 25 weeks, you don't actually have to do any missions to get the BlackRock. And so if you think that this vehicle is going to remain prestigious for long, you'll be disappointed if you're someone who's able to grind through the missions. And if you're not, then it's a great opportunity for you to play a long game of grinding through weeklies to be able to get a vehicle. And today I'm going to let you know whether it's either worth sweating to get this vehicle as quickly as possible or even bothering to try and get the Dravits to then start to have your weekly missions pump into the BlackRock. So to gauge how good the BlackRock is, let's compare it to the other Tier 11 American heavy tank, the T803. So immediately you might think, whoa, the BlackRock really suffers with regards to damage per minute compared to the T803, but that is actually not the case. And that is because of the BlackRock's ability. Once the BlackRock has penetrated 2 shells, its third shot fires 2 shells. So i.e., you're kind of firing 3 shells, and as long as you penetrated the first 2, the next will be a double, meaning that you're firing 4 shells instead of 3 shells. What this means is that the damage per minute of 2,457 is actually getting multiplied by an extra third, meaning that the actual damage per minute of this vehicle, if you're able to penetrate all of those shells, is 3,275. But remember, it can be very awkward to be able to hit that burst shell because once it's fully upgraded, you actually have a 1-second delay between your shots. Nevertheless, that gives this thing some truly staggering potential for either just grinding through whatever's in front of it, or alternatively, being a little bit strategic with trading aggressively and delivering a wonderful 860 burst damage shot. You also have to consider that the T803 is reducing its reload by 0.15, meaning that instead of its reload second being 9 seconds, it's actually going to be 7.65, meaning when that vehicle is fully pumped up, when it's reached its level 5 ability, these two tanks actually end up with practically identical damage per minute of just shy of 3,300. The BlackRock has good penetration for its standard rounds of 283, but remember they're APCR, so that is going to get less normalization. The gold rounds on this vehicle will be 330, which upgrade to 335, but that will not be as good as the 345 that you have on the T803. Luckily, the BlackRock carries more than enough ammunition, so you can take a variety of shells, because it can be very annoying to have to waste shells for delivering that third burst, because you don't have a choice as to whether you fire 1 or 2 if you've managed to penetrate the first 2 in succession. Gun handling wise, the news is great for the BlackRock. 0.33 accuracy is wonderful, 2 seconds aim time is great, and the gun handling is good enough where you could probably easily drop vert stabs. One thing that does suck, however, is the 8 degrees of gun depression compared to the T803's 10, which definitely hinders it from working a ridgeline. However, look at the mobility. The mobility is oh so much better than the T803. 45 forwards absolutely trumps 38, 15 backwards trumps 13, and look at the ground resistance as well. Better ground resistances, better power to weight ratio. This thing feels a lot more like a medium tank compared to the T803. Now, when we look at the armor, however, there's great news for the BlackRock and there's bad news. Firstly, the hull. Awful news for the BlackRock. The hull armor on this tank is very disappointing, to say the least. Its hull armor is easily penetrated on the lower plate by a variety of rounds, and it has 2 weak points on the upper part of its hull that are visible even when it's using its 8 degrees of gun depression. People are able to shoot these. It also has a bit of a weakness on the under turret. Hard to hit though, but by far the most annoying thing is that when you're in a city environment and then you have to side scrape, the sides of this tank get absolutely butchered, and it basically can't side scrape. So kind of what you're best to do is almost just stick your front round the corner, hope that your opponents miss or suck, or just see if they're inexperienced and think about shooting your tracks and not shooting the side of your vehicle. By far, you're best to kind of like almost over-angle this vehicle as you're coming around a corner and just pray. But it's so frustrating to be playing a vehicle that you think, oh, my tank should be godlike, right? I've sweated so hard to be able to get this vehicle. And then you find, yeah, it's really not. So good balancing from Wargaming there. The turret armor on this vehicle, however, is incredible. It's got like 350, 380 millimeters of protection all around. And even if your opponents spam gold, the mantlet protects you well against even heat rounds here. And it's only really huge pen on AP and APCR that is going to challenge you. Don't overturn the tank, however. It will be safe-ish against regular rounds, but it is going to struggle against the premium rounds from equal-tiered vehicles. So what you really need to know is that you don't want to expose your hull very much. And if you do, you better be penetrating the enemy vehicle because they are going to have some awkward words with you. Hit points wise, the BlackRock gets 2,450, just a touch more than the T803, and both of these vehicles get 400 meters base view range, so that you will have more than enough with or without a premium consumable. Crew-wise on the BlackRock, this is a reward vehicle, so you'll be able to use your T803 crew or your T57 heavy crew in here, for example. For your commander, I would recommend Brothers, Repairs, Recon, Emergency, Coordination, and Practicality. For your gunner, I would recommend Brothers, Repairs, Deadeye. Then I would probably take Designated Target, Snapshot, and Armorer. For your driver, Brothers, Repairs, Engineer, Controlled Impact, but probably just so that you're not getting outrammed. This isn't a heavy vehicle at 55, but it is still useful. Off-road driving and smooth ride will do you proud. And for your loader, Brothers, Repairs, 100% intuition on this vehicle, because you can intuition switch without having to interrupt the burst reload. More on that in the gameplay. Ammo tuning, and I would recommend Adrenaline Rush and Safe Stowage, as this thing does like to get popped a little bit. But if you really want to go for hyper-aggression, drop that Safe Stowage and take close quarters combat instead. Equipment-wise on the BlackRock, I've been having great success with a very aggressive build of vents, a gun rammer, and an experimental turbo. This is because this vehicle really doesn't want to side scrape. I don't think the durability device has big value on this vehicle because of that. I want to do everything that I can to get to the ridgeline, have enough gun handling to work there, and then just go full firepower with the gun rammer and the vents, which just add everything to this vehicle. I do have a second build, however, for when I am on like a city map and I have absolutely, utterly no choice, and then I can quite easily drop the turbo and use a durability device instead for when I want to have those extra hit points, or when I really want to just try and side scrape and hope that they aren't shooting the huge wing on the vehicle. So, tier 11s, they don't have field mods, so it's not really a choice as to what you should get, so I'm just going to give you a recommended upgrade path. The priorities for me on this vehicle were firstly getting the alpha damage, and then it was getting the reduction on the cooldown for the burst firing mode. You can change the intra clip on your burst from 1.5 seconds down to 1 second if you get the central chain-driven rammer enhancement and the other chain-driven rammer enhancement. So my recommended path would be go for the alpha damage, then go for that major upgrade, and then make your way along here to be able to get the other one. And then you can work up for the penetration, then work your way towards the speed upgrades, and then tidy up and get the final ability that doesn't really make too much on the BlackRock. But you know what? I think that's quite enough jibber jabber. Let's get stuck in on the battlefield. So here we go. First BlackRock gameplay on the YouTube channel, and I'm going to be rolling out on the Nord Scar map. This is before I got the final upgrades on the BlackRock, but I do believe that I do have the intra-clip burst reload reduction, which should mean that we're firing in a second rather than 1.5. It's definitely a little bit jarring when you play that BlackRock for the first time. That 1.5 seconds intra-clip reload it's a little bit awkward. A lot more awkward than a second. You have to overexpose yourself, or your opponents have time to react and adjust. Think about it as the difference between you playing something like an EBR 75, which I believe has 1.5 seconds intra-clip reload on its 2 shells, and then playing something like an AMX 1357, which is just holding down the mouse button. It's a different class of tank. And let's just get going. Oh, first BlackRock pen, man. Okay, so let's talk about the mechanic, and that is that you can see on the screen that you have a bar that fills up. And once you pen 1, and then you pen 2, then you can see that your tank is loading a double shot. And should we say, the pressure of hitting that double shot, it can lead to some overpokes. That's for sure. And so one thing I would recommend when you all get your BlackRock, because you're all going to get it right. Oh God, Jaegeru, what are you doing to me? One thing I would recommend when you all get your BlackRock is look, it's important to hit the doubles, and you should consider tactically using the doubles, but you should also consider that exposing yourself or overexposing yourself to be able to hit those doubles is not a good idea. And look, it's just a bonus shot. You've still got good damage per minute even if you're not hitting the bonus shot. So don't overexpose yourself, but look at that wonderful turret armor coming out here. Another thing I'd like to highlight is that the Blackrock has a very satisfying hit marker. That's not a modification, although I'm pretty sure somebody could make a modification so that World of Tanks had a hit marker. It's literally just a visual gratification to make you feel, yeah, you did good, you penetrated the enemy tank. I guess the hit marker is there to let you know, yeah, you hit something, so that means the shell's gone in, so that means that your shell is loading for the second one. Now, as far as I'm aware, I'm pretty sure about a couple of things. Number one, you can't just spam HE at your opponents like you can in the T803 or ricochet off them to still be able to keep the marker going. Or should I say, to keep the bonus pens adding up. Secondly, if you shoot tanks that are blind, it does not affect the marker. I've hit vehicles blind, and the bonus shells do not count even if you hit blind targets. So you can't use that mechanic to be able to tell you whether you're blind firing someone. That would be pretty outrageous, wouldn't it? The other thing to consider is that you cannot interrupt the burst once you have it loaded. But you can intuition switch. So if, for example, you want to use your AP, and oh, look at that lovely 2 shots into the side of the 54. If you want to use your AP or your heat to be able to build up a double and then switch to HE and hit a lightly armored tank, that is a possibility for you. You are perfectly able to do that. What's this E50M going to do? I have a quick look behind me to see how the ASXX40T is doing, and unfortunately he's not doing too well. And the C50M is now going to overpoke, and 1, 2. And do you notice? Rewind the YouTube video there a little bit if you need to. Do you notice how accurate the second shot is? And that's even without the final upgrade, I believe, on this vehicle, which improves that by, like, I think 20% accuracy. So I'm thinking the second shot on this vehicle feels like it's just absolute perfection. It's very, very accurate. And you can almost guarantee yourself to hit that second shell. It does feel very satisfying within that regard. And also, one thing you saw me do there is that you can still aim at the next target with your burst. So let's say for it, you don't have a choice whether you fire 2 shots, right? But what choice you do have is what targets you aim at. And so if you've got very good aim and the Blackrock has perfect gun handling for the burst, you can actually flick your mouse and deliver the second shot at a different tank. So that means there is a chance for the Blackrock to come round the corner and finish off 2 low health tanks, usually if they're going to be lightly armored, if the player has very good aim. Now, there is a cheeky way to do this, and that is that if you auto-aim at someone and you click your mouse, your left click, and then you right click while aiming at somebody else instead. So you're auto-aimed on one target, you come around the corner, and then you aim at a different one, and then you click your left mouse, then you right click, you'll un-auto-aim, and then aim at the target that you were aiming at to deliver your second burst, if that makes sense. So that's quite an advanced tactic. You can do that in all little burst autoloaders, including something like a Char 75. Done that a few times in the Char 75. And so that's a little min-max that you can do on the Blackrock as well. It is a very nuanced thing. I think casual players will not do very well with the mechanic compared to the sweaty players. But still, every little tip at your disposal. That's what the goal of these tank reviews, and why I take a while to produce them, to try and give you all of those little nuanced things that I found by fully upgrading this tank and giving it a go. So in this kind of a situation, the Griller comes in, gets dumped by the Jagdpanzer 100, and that's going to allow me to be the last man standing in what was an absolute brutal brawl, down to the last shot. And I was thinking to myself right now, wow, 17,000 hit points left on the enemy team, and I've had a great game. 7,000 damage and 1,300 spotting, and 6 kills? Alright, we got a top gun, but there's a lot more to do in this battle. So I'm hoping that the RHM is going to advance with me. I don't really want to just drive in front of the Object 268 version 5. You know, we got something special here, you know? Some kind of special game. Another thing I'd like to highlight about this vehicle is how crazy it is to be able to have a burst autoloader effect, but also still be able to use a gun rammer. So at the moment we have Adrenaline Rush working, and remember that our DPM is all stacking up. So that 7.33 reload is actually going to, if we hit 2 shots, then the third is going to be a burst. So that means that we're actually going to be delivering. We fire 7.5 seconds. We fire 7.5 seconds. We go again. So in 15 seconds, or like 16 if we're including the intra clip, we're actually able to deliver 4 shells, which is pretty darn wild, boys and girls. Pretty darn wild. Another little thing I must highlight is that 1 second intra clip reload actually slows down the DPM a little bit by a second. So the calculations that I made against the T803, you might have to shave off 100 DPM or so for that 1 second that you spend with the intra clip. And what is it about this game that all my allies, whenever they come near me, they just seem to die right now? Is this like main character syndrome of the BlackRock? Maybe. Well, 7 kills, 7,000 damage, and there's a lot left to do in this game. I've got my burst loaded. I've only got 5 heat rounds left, and I wanted to use them for the mouse and the IS-7 later on in the game. So I'm trying to make those regular rounds work. Here comes the FV215B183, and how powerful is that, man? 900 damage nearly. Remember, this has got 860 burst in a second. Absolutely clubbing down that FV215B183 to size. So I'm going to wait till I'm no longer spotted, and then I'm going to adjust my position, because I do believe that 114 will be trying to flank me. I'm asking the 268 version 5 for a little bit of help, hoping that maybe they're advanced, or maybe they'll just shoot the FV if he tries to flank me. So I'm going to go around this corner instead, and I bet you that 114 will be flanking me. And there he is. There's the 114. All right. Nice soft turret there. We put 1 in. All right. So hopefully we can hit them twice as they come in. And then that will trigger a burst, and maybe, just maybe, we'll have the alpha damage. But oh, disaster, we actually ricochet our shot. I look at where the 268 version 5 is, and he's so low now, he's not going to be able to help me. And so this is a very important part of BlackRock gameplay, and that is hit your shot and then do a little bit of a wiggle. I hold my handbrake and I go and I press my A and my D key, and that triggers a double shot. So we now have the 114 down to a 1 shot, just shy of 10,000 damage. Not bad, right? Just 10,000 damage and killing half of the enemy team. Unfortunately, the 114 managed to get me, and it all comes down to that 1 missed shot. Maybe I should have fired heat. Maybe that would have been able to go through that part of the 114's armor, which is very well angled on the side. But rip, rest in peace. Still an awesome game to show you exactly what the BlackRock is all about. Those doubles, so rewarding. Those hit markers, everything. And just able to grind through whatever it takes on a ridgeline. But as soon as its hull armor is exposed, oh, it's a stinker. So round 2, we're going to be rolling out, I would say in the worst possible matchup, but in theory this vehicle could meet tier 11 only, and eventually it will be meeting tier 11 only quite a lot of the time. Although I've only managed to get into, I think, about 3 or 4 tier 11 only games, so, and that's in like the, I don't know, 50, 60, 80, whatever amount of games that I have played in the BlackRock. So now we see the BlackRock. I have a little number indicator next to my tank, which means that I have got this thing fully equipped and fully elited. So that means when you see that second burst, you'll really get an idea of just how accurate that second burst is going to be. So, on a map like this, I want to get forwards, want to take the fight to the enemy team, get that turbo running, and try to harass our opponents. Get forwards and just get stuck in. And man, I love that hit marker. It really is cool. Would, for vanity's sake, I want to put it on every vehicle with some kind of a mod? Don't think so. And here you can see why I'm using safe stowage on this vehicle. First shot of the game, ammo rank, you don't want to go pop early on in a game, especially in a BlackRock, right? I think I have actually been full health ammo racked in a BlackRock, pushing aggressively one time, and that's with safe stowage. So, I don't know, man. Do you want to go for the close quarters combat to really max out that DPM? I don't feel like this vehicle is ever really in those close quarters combat situations. I feel like it's more of a ridgeline predator. That's how I personally think it. So I think the close quarters combat, probably not as much value as you might get from the added durability from the safe stowage. But you guys do you. A lot of players will want to live on the edge on a vehicle like this. quite understandably so. It's, you know, the prestigious tank, so maybe living on the edge is what it's about. And here's the thing that's really crazy about that double, and why this replay is so important for showing what the Blackrock's capabilities are. When you penetrate the same place on the enemy vehicle in quick succession, they don't have time to repair their fuel tanks, they don't have time to repair their ammo rack, you get a lot of module damage, which is why I thoroughly recommend Deadeye on your gunner on this vehicle. I've set so many fires, I've got so many ammo racks in this vehicle, and that's purely because they can't react to repair their fuel tank and their ammo racks, and so they get set on fire and they get popped. And then what you're going to see here is how quickly the Blackrock's damage adds up. Guys, we're 2.5 minutes into this game after traveling basically 1 kilometer, and look at that double, dude. It's, oh man, it's dirty. It's dirty. And if I compare this to, for example, a T803, the T803, when it's fully maxed out, has comparable damage per minute to the Blackrock. But I guess the problem with the T803 is that you're having to expose yourself so much more. And not just because this vehicle has 10 extra alpha, but because when you only have to sit there for a second to be able to deliver that double shot. Oh, nearly got 2 into different targets there. When you get to hide between your shells and deliver that 860, whereas the T803 has to ramp up the damage and then just constantly sit in front of its opponents, this vehicle feels like it can play so much safer than the T803. And also, the elephant in the room that nobody wants to talk about with the T803 is that weak point on top. That weak point, it's significant. It is a very significant weak point that the Blackrock just doesn't have. And so the T803, it has more ridge lines that it can work because it has 10 degrees of gun depression, but the Blackrock just has that better turret which allows you to expose yourself to, like, for example, that Jagdpanzer E100 that you saw. I would sit in front of anything on this tank, anything at all on this vehicle, and really not have to worry. It's kind of like a Griffin, but a Griffin turret that's just absolutely mad. So let's go for that M48. And you've got to have a good amount of mouse control. I think probably about 80% of the player base, probably not the 20% of the player base that will get this vehicle, however, will benefit from reducing their sensitivity in the game. You have to make sure that you're able to drag that mouse oh so slowly between your shells, so if you can't do nice, smooth, kind of like figure of eights, or be able to trace your opponent's outlines, you will very much struggle on this vehicle. You have to have smooth control to be able to deliver those 2-round bursts. Because if you're not, and you can't keep the reticle in the middle of the tank in the 1 second delay between the shells, then yeah, it's going to be brutal. So, get that mouse control. Oh, unlike there. If only I could be telepathic to think what my opponents are doing with regards to where they're going to change locations, right? Dirty stuff here, guys. Dirty stuff. We're 5 minutes into this game, and this shows you the Blackrock just absolutely tearing through. I don't need that extra HE shell. Perfect. Actually, no, it wasn't the burst. Now we've got the burst for the final shell, hopefully, on the Concept, who was last spotted as a one-shot. I'm not going to get the Manticore. But can we finally hit 10k in the Blackrock? I'm hoping. I'm hoping. Last game we got like within 30 or 40, right? And there we go. That's what I want to see. And we've got even the emergency shell if we're able to hit it. Dirty game here, guys. 5.5 minute round. And we managed to plow through nearly 14,000 damage. Just epic stuff for an epic tank. So let me come to a conclusion about the Blackrock. There's been a lot of talk in the community saying that this vehicle's just not worth it, or that it's not that good. And I can see what people are suggesting, but I don't agree with them. I think the tank is fantastic, and I think that if you're a great player, you will do very well with this vehicle. The extra speed allows you to be aggressive. That turret armor advantage over the T803 allows you to do some really funky stuff. The difference between this thing and the T803 is that you're basically having an awkward hull with weak points that can't really side scrape to be able to gain extra mobility and some ridgeline prowess. But only ridgelines where 8 degrees of gun depression will work and not 10 degrees of gun depression. This is a much harder tank to play than the T803. you have to have good mouse control, good skill to be able to work with those doubles, and you have to be also willing to sometimes take a hit to make a hit to be able to make use of that 860 damage burst potential. Really, a lot of people are underestimating how useful it is to deliver those 2 shots in a second. Also, mainly for keeping yourself hidden, and also for that extra module damage potential. The ammo racks, the fires, they really do add up in the Blackrock and leave your opponents not able to fight back. One of the reasons why I would recommend Designated Target on this tank, because Designated Target also allows you to see when you're damaging enemy modules, not just with the crit bell, and to know whether you should just keep pumping that location, and to also learn those weak points to be able to then hopefully get those delicious ammo racks and those fires that the Blackrock seems to have possibly the best potential of, I'd say, at tier 11. Outside of, I guess, a ridiculous full bag in an ASXX. So the Blackrock, I think this is a vehicle that will really highlight the good players from the great players. I personally think that very good players will do better in the Blackrock than they will do in the T803. And I think that casual players will probably do better in the T803 than they would do in the Blackrock. However, while it sounds like I'm singing this vehicle's praises, I want to clarify that I think it's probably on par with the other tier 11 heavies. This isn't like a 279E, okay? With the 279E, it was clearly just better than all of the other heavies. And so the sweaty players unlocked it, and there was this incredible vehicle, completely bonkers overpowered vehicle that all of the sweaties managed to get, and I was forced to get so that I could just compete in ranked, and then I called for the 279E to never be usable in ranked because of how ridiculous it was making the competitive scene, and luckily that did happen. The T803, it's not like a 279E. This vehicle is pretty balanced as a tier 8 heavy, but I think that the skill curve on this vehicle will mean that when the casual players get it, they'll actually do worse in this than they would do in a T803, but I think the better players will do better in this tank than they would do in the T803, purely because of the speed and purely because of that burst potential allows great players to do great things. So the final word, should you grind through the sweaty missions right now as hard as you can to be able to get the Blackrock? Honestly, you'd probably do better. The vast majority of you out there will be more relaxed and have a better time and also get just as good of a tank if you just played the T803 and waited to naturally unlock the Blackrock through your weekly and your daily missions. However, for those of you out there who want to put yourself through the test, to get through the missions, to be able to get the Blackrock and check it out while it's hot on the battlefield and before everybody knows how to deal with it, then there is an advantage to be able to get your hands on this vehicle. But now I'm going to ruin that for all of you by helping all of the casual players who aren't going to be able to get the Blackrock how to take it apart. So obviously I showed you with the armor model, shoot the wings of this vehicle. When this thing side scrapes, this whole plate here is horrendous. Next, make sure you hit these 2 bulges on the front of the upper hull, the one on the right and the one on the left. These 2 are horrendous, and then if you can catch the lower plate, it is a very easy target, as we can see that it has been buttered here and here. And also the upper plate, it's good, but it's not that good. So if this thing face hugs you, you can pretty much just shoot down on it. But one thing you should not do against the Blackrock, and that is waste your time against this thing's turret. Just try and avoid it. Don't reward it by allowing it to penetrate you and then build up those doubles. Otherwise, this thing will most likely be played by a good player, at least for now, and farm you pretty hard on a ridgeline. Anyway, ladies and gents, boys and girls, that was my full Blackrock tank review. I really hope you enjoyed this video and it was useful for you. If it was, give the video a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And let me know what you think about the Blackrock in the comments down below. Do you think it looks like a balanced tank? Do you think that it's got enough areas that the T803 is better, that the T803 might actually be superior to the Blackrock? Or do you think that this one has the edge on the T803? And if you're a Blackrock player, what do you think? Do you think this one's an incredible tank and better than the T803, or do you think the T803 is better than the Blackrock? And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.